They poisoned him, stole his destiny, and left him to die. But fate is cruel to those who think they've already won, because the blade he was never meant to wield was not a weapon of heroes, it was a curse, forged for the broken. And the moment he touched it, the world itself began to tremble. Before the betrayal, before the blood, there were two brothers, Arion and Kale. Born into the royal bloodline of Aurelios, they were destined for greatness. But while Arion was strong, admired, and chosen by everyone around him, Kale lived quietly in his shadow. Yet Arion never saw him that way. To him, Kale was not weak. He was someone worth protecting, someone worth loving, someone he would stand for no matter what. On cold nights, they would sit beneath the endless sky, watching the stars flicker like distant dreams. Kale would sometimes ask in a quiet voice filled with doubt, "Brother, what if one day I can't stand beside you?" And Arion would smile without hesitation, placing a hand on his shoulder, saying, "Then I'll stand for both of us." Those words were simple, but they carried a promise. A promise that would one day shatter beyond repair. In the kingdom of Aurelios, every soul is bound to a blade. At the age of 16, your destiny reveals itself. The entire kingdom gathered that day, nobles, warriors, and commoners alike, because this was no ordinary ceremony. This was Arion's moment, the moment the future king would claim his blade. The air trembled with anticipation as he stepped forward, and the blades began to glow. Whispers spread through the crowd. Some called it fate, others called it destiny. But just as Arion reached out, something felt wrong. A sharp pain pierced through his body. His breath grew heavy, his vision blurred. And before anyone could understand what was happening, he collapsed. Gasps filled the hall as the future king lay trembling on the ground, and through his fading vision, he saw someone walking past him, calm, steady, unshaken. Kale, Kale. The word barely escaped his lips. His body refused to move. The poison burned through his veins like fire, stealing his strength, his breath, his future. Kale stopped for a moment, his back turned. Silence filled the space between them. And then, slowly, he spoke. "You were always chosen." His voice trembled, but his words were sharp. "But I was always nothing." Arion's heart shattered in that moment. Not from the poison, but from the truth behind those words. "I needed this," Kale continued. "I needed to be seen." And without turning back, he walked away, leaving his brother on the cold stone floor to die. But Arion did not die. Perhaps fate wasn't done with him, or perhaps it wanted him to suffer longer. He was cast out, forgotten, erased from history as if he had never existed. The kingdom moved on, but not forward. Under Kale's rule, something changed. The people suffered in silence. Fear replaced hope, and no one dared to speak. Meanwhile, Arion wandered through a world that no longer had a place for him. Broken, starving, alone. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Every step felt heavier than the last. Every breath carried the same question: why? Why him? Why Kale? Why did the one person he trusted most become the one who destroyed him? The memories haunted him. Laughter, promises, the warmth of brotherhood, and that night beneath the stars. "I'll stand beside you." The words echoed in his mind like a cruel joke. Everything was a lie. One night, on the edge of death, Arion collapsed near ancient ruins. His body had nothing left. No strength, no hope, no reason to continue. And that's when he felt it. A presence, heavy, ancient, watching him. Before him lay a blade, dark as the void itself. It did not shine. It pulsed, as if it were breathing, as if it had been waiting for him. A voice echoed, not around him, but within him. You are worthy. Arion's fingers trembled as he forced out a whisper. Worthy of what? Pain, betrayal, hatred, the voice answered. You have everything required. A portal opened before him, swirling with darkness. Words appeared, forming a contract. The price was written, but blurred, as if the world itself refused to reveal it. Arion let out a weak laugh. I have nothing left to lose. And he reached out, gripping the blade. The moment his fingers closed around it, the sky roared with thunder. Power surged through his broken body, and something deep within him changed forever. The world began to whisper once again, but this time, not of a prince, not of a hero, but of something far more terrifying. A man wielding a blade that devoured everything. Armies fell before him, tyrants vanished, and wherever he walked, darkness followed. But strangely, so did hope. The broken, the abandoned, the forgotten, they found him. And they followed him, not because he was kind, but because he understood their pain. Arion built an army, not of heroes, but of survivors. With each battle, he grew stronger, more feared, more unstoppable. But the blade demanded something in return. With every strike, something within him faded. A memory, a feeling, a piece of his soul. Yet he never stopped, because ahead of him was the throne, and sitting upon it was Kael. The gates of Aurelios fell as his army stormed the kingdom. The people watched in silence, but this time it was not fear that filled their hearts, it was hope. Inside the throne room, two brothers stood once more. Kael rose slowly from his throne. You came back, he said, his voice heavy with something that almost sounded like regret. Arion said nothing. There were no words left between them, only silence and the weight of everything that had been lost. Then, without warning, they clashed. The battle shook the entire palace. Steel met steel as the brothers fought with everything they had. Kael's movements were desperate, filled with emotion, with guilt, with something broken. With everything I did, it was for us, he shouted. But Arion's eyes were empty. No, he said quietly. It was for you. The final strike came in an instant. A single slash. Clean. Absolute. Kael's body fell to the ground as blood spread across the floor. His eyes trembled as he looked up at his brother, not as a king, not as a rival, but as the boy he once loved. I just wanted, he whispered weakly, to stand beside you. And then he was gone. Silence filled the throne room, and then the blade spoke. The cost has come. Arion stood still. The price is the soul. Stillness, not death, but oblivion. No reincarnation, no memory, no existence. Arion slowly looked up at the sky beyond the shattered ceiling, and for the first time, he smiled. What sin do I bear, he whispered, to suffer this fate? Blood dripped from his blade, from his hands, from the life he had taken, and the one he had lost. If this world can still be saved, then let me vanish. Light erupted, the darkness shattered, the blade changed, its curse broken. A voice echoed, ancient and divine. This was a test, to find a king who would choose others over himself. Arion's fading body was restored. The blade transformed into pure light. The kingdom was finally free. not by power, not by blood, but by sacrifice. And as the people gathered, looking upon him with hope and gratitude, they did not see a monster, they saw their king. Peace returned slowly to Aurelios. The suffering faded, and the people began to smile once more. Arion sat upon the throne, the weight of the crown resting heavily upon him, but his gaze remained distant, because, in the end, victory still felt empty. Power, he whispered softly, means nothing without someone to share it with. And somewhere beyond the endless sky, a broken promise finally found its peace.